Did you ever think you could get shiny watercolors? Here's why I love Dorland's wax medium. Number 1, it deepens your colors, making them look more vibrant. Number 2, it smooths out the layers of paint that might have built up to a shiny level and makes them an even shine with the rest of your painting. Number 3, it's a great alternative to other more harmful for the environment and your health type varnishes. And finally, number 4 is it offers some protection against moisture and dust, which is great if you're framing or mounting your watercolors without glass or plexi. I'm going to show you exactly how I like to use it and my secret weapon for making sure you get a smooth application. So right now you can see that there's some pretty pronounced texture from the cold pressed paper, and it's on the dull side. It's just kind of matte. Where we put a lot of layers of black, it gets shiny because the paint is just so thick in those areas. So finishing this with wax will deepen the colors, make it more vibrant and less dull. It'll get rid of that shine and it will even out the texture, in addition to providing a really good protection for your art. Now, Dorland's wax medium isn't known for giving your art kind of a light, fast protection like a varnish would, but it does protect your painting from moisture and dust. And the biggest reason why I like to use it is because it evens out those shiny spots and makes your whole painting look better. You can see all of the materials I'm going to be using today. I'm going to need Kleenex, a latex glove, my Dorlands, I like a pet hair pickup, a rag, and a brayer. Now I'm just testing out a second brayer today. Normally I use my old foam brayer, but we're also going to test this soft rubber brayer. You're going to need your portrait. I have mine mounted right now onto a panel. I really like this panel because it's already the same size as my paper, 11 by 14. It's already finished. So you can't see, but underneath this painting it was white and the edges are all white. And it has these keyholes in the back. And I mostly love it because it's perfectly flat. So mounting portraits onto the surface is very easy. I do have a separate video walking you through how I mount my portraits. This video will be just about Dorland's. So after I mounted my painting, I did sand a little bit of the extra glue off the edges and made it nice and smooth. And I'm just gonna make sure I wipe off any of the big, larger dust particles with my rag. Next, I like to take my pet hair roller and roll it across the whole surface to pick up anything that's kind of sticking to it. I have 4 cats and they really like to get their hair all over my art. Now we're going to apply a nice thick layer of the Dorland's wax medium. I just like to use my fingers. I'm wearing the latex glove to protect my hand, but the cool thing about Dorland's is it's not stinky and it's pretty benign. It's not full of a lot of gross ingredients. So if I do get some on my hand, I'm never too concerned about that. So I just rub it on in kind of circle motions to really fill in the texture of that cold pressed paper. And making sure I get it all the way out and past the edges. Once my hand is gliding very smoothly over the entire surface of the art, then I know I've applied enough Dorland's. Now this part is optional, but I do like to apply just a nice thin layer along the edge. Again, the panel I'm using is finished, so this isn't completely necessary. I also like to make sure I get some kind of between the paper and the panel. There is a little bit of a gap here, so I just kind of fill that in with the wax as well. And then I smooth out each edge so it doesn't have too much on it. And now is the fun part that it took me a long time to get to discovering this. So when you apply this Dorland's and you're applying it with your fingers, you're going to get thick areas and thin areas, and it's just unavoidable. And for a long time, I just would kind of finish it like this by kind of smoothing it out in one direction with my fingers, and that helped. But I would still end up with these thick and thin areas of wax. And while they're not very noticeable, if you looked at it in kind of certain lighting, you could see those thick and thin areas. So now I have my brayer. This is a really old foam brayer, and I've used it for a lot of things. So it has this little layer of gunk on it. And I also just waxed another painting, so there's also some wax residue here. But I just go over it with kind of medium pressure, and that smooths out the wax. It works amazing. It's the perfect solution. I was so happy when I discovered it. I wanted to see too if this soft rubber brayer would work, mostly because for some reason the foam brayer is out of stock often, and this one isn't. So let's just see. Oh, and this appears like it's working just as well. And I'm not afraid to be too aggressive because I really want to pick up and lay down that wax in an even way. I actually really like how this soft rubber brayer is working for this. And you can be extra thorough and go across it in both directions and really even it out. But the thing is, it does leave you with this texture on the surface. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that would show up if you left it alone. So then I will just go back over it with a really light touch to smooth it and get it nice and even across the whole thing. And then picking up some of the excess wax that ends up on the edges. And then the last step that I like to do before I let it dry, and I let it dry overnight, is just pick up, if there's big areas of dust or hair that still clung to the surface, I pick those up and then I wipe them on a Kleenex and then brush that surface area that I had disturbed to make it even again. And I've had a lot of success using Dorlands on both mounted and unmounted paintings. And then I just like to give it one final once over. Make sure it looks really good. The thing with Dorlands too is that if you let it dry and then try to kind of scratch something off the surface that you notice after it dries, that scratched area will be shiny, and you'll be able to notice that in certain light. It hasn't dried yet, but you can already see how the wax has filled in that texture and softened it so that that texture isn't so pronounced and harsh. The colors are also deeper, and that shininess in the eyes where we had layered a lot of black paint is no longer shiny. I'll show you this again when it dries completely. Our paintings have dried overnight. These are actually a few days old, and I want you to first see how deep and beautiful the colors are and how it has a little bit of a shine in the light. And two, how that texture is just a little bit less pronounced. The other thing that can happen too is you can get these little bits of shininess. Sometimes it can dry with these little shiny spots. If you see right here in the corner in the light, it's a little bit shiny. And what I found is I just take a Kleenex and you can kind of rub that shine off. It kind of just blends it, buffs it in a little bit. There's a few spots that have a little bit of shininess here. And you're kind of buffing the shine by softening it into the rest of the painting. So now you're going to display these on your wall, and after a while they're going to get dusty, and I found that the dust kind of likes to stick to these. So my best defense against that is, again, using the pet hair roller to get them nice and clean. The other thing that you can run into is, say you missed getting some of those bits of dust or hair out before you let the wax dry. And so you can come in and scratch those out, but it's going to leave you with a little bit of a shiny spot again. So you would just buff that in. And we did it. We finished our paintings. They're perfectly flat with Dorland's wax medium. I love how this looks, and I think you're gonna fall in love with it too. Let me know how you like to use Dorland's wax medium in the comments. And of course, your supply list is waiting for you at paint333.com. If you're looking for the full process of how I like to mount and display my watercolors, here's the video you're gonna want for that. Don't be afraid to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more awesome watercolor goodies. Happy painting, and I will see you in the next video.